You're listening to Ideal Practice episode number 149. Today, guys, you get to meet Shannon Simmons. And we're going to talk about profit first, which is a very cool subject, but we're also going to talk about what it means to be an embodied CFO in your private practice. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host, and I am so happy to be hanging out with you today. We got a good one for you today, guys. A good one. You are going to hear my conversation with Shannon Simmons. Shannon has a background in accounting and bookkeeping and brings to the table some real expertise around the concept known as profit first. Are you familiar with that? You'll hear about it in the interview itself, but this is based on a pretty radical concept that was first put forward by an author and business owner named Mike Michalowicz. We'll certainly talk about that. And she's going to walk us through some of the basics about what's different about that system, why it's good for us to understand it, and how it can make a difference for you as a business owner. And y'all, you'll hear me talk about this. I dive in and out of this and have for a long time. It is really, really good. And just this conversation reminded me of how good it is and why I need to be paying more attention to that. So that's going to be super helpful for you from a strategic perspective. But the other thing that's going to be great is Shannon learned as an accountant, as a bookkeeper, that just giving people the tools, well, here's how you do it. This is really easy. Just do this with your money, wasn't enough. And she became interested in the thoughts and feelings that we bring to how we manage money. And she's done something about that because she learned a lot once she started rolling this out for her clients. So we're going to talk about profit first, what it is, how it works, and we're going to talk about what it means to be an embodied CFO in your private practice. So, without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host. And oh my gosh, I am so excited about the conversation we're going to be having today. Let me introduce you. You've already heard a little bit about her in the intro, but let me introduce you to Shannon Simmons. Come on board and say hi, Shannon.
Hi, Wendy. I'm super excited to be here.
Super excited. Yeah.
Yeah, super excited. And I'm just really grateful. Thank you for the opportunity, for sure.
Yeah. So you and I connected on LinkedIn because you kept commenting on things that I had posted. And you were one of the, not few, maybe only person who ever just shared something for the sake of sharing and wasn't pitching me constantly, which absolutely drives me kind of nuts. And I noticed it because you always had good things to say. And I was sort of curious about, like, who is this person? What does she do? And that really kind of grew over time. And then I'm like, you know what? Let's talk. I want to hear more about what she's doing. So let's start. Let's do this. Let me begin by just tell everybody a little bit about, like, who you are, who you serve. How do you serve them? Let's start with that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I own a business called Fit for Profit. We've been in business for almost 17 years now.
Wow.
We work with people in the health and wellness industry, helping them. So Fit for Profit, we started off as a bookkeeping company 17 years ago. And then about 10 years ago, I found Profit First. And that really changed how we served clients and what we did with them. So now we help people implement Profit First into their business.
Yeah.
And that was just I mean, I told you before it changed my life. It also changed my business, right? And it has allowed us to do so much more with our clients and see so many more results. Bookkeeping just doesn't really do it for me.
Okay, I can relate to that.
Profit
Bookkeeping
first
doesn't
does.
really do it for me either. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't do it for most people.
Yeah.
But
That's
Profit
funny.
First does. And so we do Profit First. It's kind of, so I say bookkeeping is a tool in our tool belt. Profit
Yeah.
First is a tool in our tool belt. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I started to get really curious, intrigued about this whole like money mindset thing that everybody was talking about out in the world, right? And
Right.
so did some work into that and have created an embodied CFO program now within the last year and a half.
Oh,
So
that's
that's just
right.
another tool in our tool belt. So those are the kind of the three different things that we help our clients with, all about it really creating a stable and helpful, healthy relationship with money.
Which is sort of a radical thing for this audience. So you and you work with wellness folks, so like therapists, yoga people,
Yeah.
massage therapy, like the same kind of people that I work with. That's awesome. I want to hear about that. So I completely forgot, Shannon. Where are you in the country, in the world?
Yeah, I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is northern Indiana.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked because I had you somewhere else. Okay, great. Okay, that's super cool. Side note, I always get all the I states mixed up. Indiana, Illinois, Iowa. I'm always like, one of the I states up there in the middle
Yeah,
somewhere. Okay.
because we're right there together for sure.
That's very funny. Okay. So let's start. So I want to dive into what Profit First is, but let's back up from that. So when you said, like you mentioned to me before, it changed my life completely. You already had a bookkeeping service going, right? You have an account. Is accounting is your background? Am I remembering that right?
Accounting is my background. Yep. So I was in public
Okay.
accounting for 2 years in corporate,
Okay.
and that was not my cup of tea either.
Okay. Yeah. No.
It's funny the things you think that you're going to enjoy and what you think a profession is when you're in high school and college when
Yeah.
you choose one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what I thought it was. The public accounting wasn't what I thought it was. But I really wanted to work with small businesses. And so I left public and opened this. Yeah, had a couple kids in there in between
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to work with small businesses. So we started with bookkeeping because that's really all I knew at that point.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where I got started and what we still do.
Okay. And then what happened? When you started your business right off the bat, because you're right, we learned things along the way that kind of surprised us. How did it go in the beginning? What did you discover, and how did Profit First make a difference for you? Like, what was the transition? Because when I talk a lot about on this practice the ridiculous mistakes I made in the beginning because I knew nothing about running a business. I also didn't care to know anything about running a business. I just cared about serving my clients, right? I didn't care about all that money stuff. And to my detriment, let me tell you.
Yep.
So tell me about that. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah.
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah,
dig
definitely
into
made
that.
some mistakes. And here's what I like to tell people, when I'm first meeting them and they're wanting to know what we do. Most accountants don't know how to run a business either. We can analyze the hell out of anybody else's business,
I get that.
but we really don't know how to, we might know how to like manage the money side of it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think in general, accountants are pretty awful at the people side of business and other things that maybe you all have dialed
Yeah,
in, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just an interesting dichotomy. But so my business, like I said, I started it when I had, I think, a 18-month-old at home and a 6-month-old or something. I had 2 kids really close together. It was
Yeah.
definitely for a while a break from my kids, and work was and kids were a break from my work. I just kind of tried
Totally
to
get
balance
that. I did the same thing,
right?
basically. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people do. And then I think we were in business for about 3 or 4 years. My kids were still pretty young, and my husband was in the construction industry in 2011, let's say,
Oh,
which we all know what happened in 2008, right? And
Right.
his business was able to sustain it for 3 years, but then he was let go and laid off from that job. And so I was sole provider with a part-time hobby business going on. And we basically were taking everything out of the business financially that we could because we
Yeah.
needed it to
Yeah.
live on. right?
Yeah.
With 2 kids and no job. And
Yeah.
then I think it was 2012, I filed my own taxes because I'm an accountant and I can do that, although I don't recommend it anymore. And I knew that I was going to owe money to the IRS because we had finally started to grow the business. It was more than just a hobby now because it had to be, but we weren't saving for taxes.
You were making money, but you weren't setting money aside.
Uh-huh.
Got it.
Exactly.
Ooh. Yep.
Yeah, you know where
Yep.
this is going.
Yeah, I do. I do.
So, as an accountant, it really sucks when you know you're going to owe money to the IRS and you can't pay the bill
Because you know better.
because you know better.
Yeah.
And we tell our client, I was constantly telling my clients, like, you need to be saving money for your taxes. But I wasn't doing it. And even as I say it, like the embarrassment around that, I've gotten over it. It definitely, helps me understand clients more and all of that. But that was the biggest financial mistake I made. And from that day forward, I did open a second bank account and started saving money in that bank account for taxes so that I never had that situation again.
Okay.
And then 6 months later, a client brought me the book Profit First. And I read it and I was like, wait a second, I'm already doing this with the tax account. You mean I should be doing it with a profit account and an owner's pay account? And it clicked. It totally made sense because I was already kind of starting it on my own.
So guys, let's make sure, I want to make sure everybody knows what you're talking about. So the book Profit First, many of y'all have heard that term because it gets thrown around a lot these days. It started with a book by a guy named Mike Michalowicz, who has a last name I cannot spell without looking it up. And it was sort of a radical approach to how to think about money, right? When he came out with this concept. Yeah.
Yep.
So first of all, I just want to highlight, and I'm going to do this. I didn't tell you this, Shannon, but I'm going to interrupt from time to time because I want to make sure people get certain things along the way. I usually warn people about that. First, I want to highlight the fact that an accountant / bookkeeper / financial expert did not think to save up her own tax money and got herself into trouble, which makes me feel better. Right? Better, because we all do this kind of thing. In fact, you had a quote on your website, which I highlighted, and this is the perfect spot to pull it out. Yeah, I told you I was looking at your website. You said,
you were.
Yeah, it really was. You said, like most business owners, that you put your own business last and took care of your clients first.
Yep.
Which in a nutshell is what we tend to do. So you were doing that. You were growing your business. You were taking care of your people, but forgot to take care of yourself in the background. I'll say, and then Profit First. So I just wanted to highlight that thing. Can you, for people who have never heard of this or they've heard of it tangentially, like, yeah, whatever. What is that anyway? Start by telling us what was so radically different about the way he thinks in this way, and then walk us through what this means.
Yeah. What I love about how Mike explains it is Mike is a business owner. He's not an accountant. And so like business owners get it in a way that they don't usually get accountants because there's no accounting-ease language in the book, right? It's very understandable.
Yeah.
And most business owners just aren't taught how to manage cash in their business at all. It's not part of business school. So we all have one bank account that we're running our business out of. And Mike is like, why? That doesn't work. Like 85% of businesses fail with only one bank account. So what if we did something different? And so the radical thought process was, let's have 4 or 5 or 6 bank accounts so that we can give our money a purpose before we spend any of it. And we start to take care of ourselves right alongside taking care of our clients, right? We can do both at the same time.
Why does he say profit first as opposed to second, third, last, whatever? Why that concept about profit first?
Yeah. So you as the business owner are the most important person in your business. Like speaking to myself, right? I am the most important part of the business. If I don't exist, if the owner doesn't exist, the business doesn't exist. And so we have to take care of ourselves, and profit is what takes care of you as the business owner. We all have invested in our business. Whether it's time or money, there was a time where you were working to get your first client and not getting paid. That's an investment in your business.
Yeah.
You went to school to learn what you did and you weren't getting paid. You're paying to do it.
Yeah.
Now you get a return on that investment is your profit from your business. So you just have to be profitable. In order to take care of anything else, you have to be profitable in your business. So that's why profit has to come first.
And how do you define profit? What does that even mean? Because we don't think that way. We think somebody paid me $100 an hour, $150 an hour. I pay my insurance. I pay my office rent. Whatever I got left, I can buy some groceries. Like, yeah, it's pretty basic.
It really is. So,
Yeah.
the accounting formula for profit is sales minus expenses equals profit. And what the other part of Mike's radical thinking is, how about if we do sales minus profit equals expenses? So it's a math formula.
Oh, yeah, but that's
It's a huge
sales
shift.
minus profit equals expenses.
Yes.
Y'all, listen up, because I instantly get a little squirmy thinking about that. Sales minus profit equals expenses. Then where my brain goes immediately is, yeah, but what if I can't cover my expenses? If I take profit out. Yeah, okay, all right. Keep going. I'm going to follow you.
So if you can't cover your expenses, then you can't afford your expenses. Is really what that's telling you, right?
Yeah.
And there's many, many ways to fix that. It doesn't mean you have to reduce your expenses. It may mean that you need to increase your income.
Yeah.
Who's ever looked at profitability when you're thinking about pricing?
Yeah.
Do we include that in our pricing? So there's lots of ways to fix it, but Wendy, you said we use the leftovers to pay ourselves whatever's left from the business. It's just it's a radical mindset shift, right? It's a simple math formula to change where expenses and profit are. But when we put profit first and we say we're going to run our business off the leftovers instead of paying ourselves the leftovers, we start to really analyze every expense.
Okay.
Closer.
Yeah.
Anyways.
You take a closer look, you pay more attention.
More aware of, exactly, more attention on what's going on in those expenses.
Okay. I like that. Which like with our clients, or at least with my clients, often paying attention to things at a closer level is sometimes uncomfortable because it means you have to see things you don't necessarily want to see. But once you see it, you can do something about it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what I'm hearing, I do think that's kind of an important point, because this is also what I got when I read that book, that the big takeaway was, one of the things he talked about, and I know that this is true because I've talked to these people, is that you'll see people who have $1 million business, a 7-figure business, $2 million, $4 million business, who aren't making anything. They're bringing in a ton of revenue and they have nothing, very little to live on, nothing like you would think. And I think that would shock people if they knew that.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. Okay. So what's a good way to dive into this to learn about it? Do you want to talk to us about sort of the principles or the formulas or the bank? What's the best way to teach this to people who it's new?
Yeah. So, I can just talk kind of high level about some of the principles and bank accounts, and the high level way I explain it, I think. A lot of people have heard of the envelope system for managing money when we all had cash, that we ran around with. Now we don't do that. So I like to say profit first is really the envelope system modernized. We're using bank accounts now instead of envelopes, and for business instead of personal. My parents used the envelope system when I was growing up. So I remember an envelope for groceries and an envelope for gas and all the things,
I totally did that.
Kids.
I went through Financial Peace. I did the whole Dave Ramsey thing, and I was carrying around a whole book of envelopes in my purse for a good while. That's a great analogy. Yeah.
So all Mike did, I feel like really all Mike did was modernize that. Instead of using envelopes, we're going to use bank accounts. So we have at least 5 bank accounts for most businesses.
Okay.
Do you want me to run through those now?
Yeah.
Totally do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one is an income account. That's just you need a place for your money to come into it, right? And then from there, you divvy it up or allocate it into profits, owner's pay, taxes, and then the last one is operating expenses.
Okay.
So those are the 5 bank accounts that every business owner needs.
Profit, owners, what did you say?
Taxes,
Taxes, owner's compensation is what you said. I call it owner's draw, but
Yeah.
salary, what you pay yourself.
Same thing. Yep, exactly.
Okay. Taxes and operation. And how is profit different from owner's compensation?
Yeah. So owner's compensation is the salary that you pay yourself. That's for the work you do in your business, whatever that is, running the business, being a therapist in your business.
Yeah.
Like I said, whatever. That is what you use to pay your personal bills at home. That's like your everyday living money. That's your grocery money. It's your eating out money. It's your rent. It's whatever it is that you have. Profit is the return on the investment you made to start a business.
Okay.
So going back to the very beginning, all those things you did to invest in your business, maybe you're still investing, but profit's the return on that. So it's it's over and above your salary. And I like to call that like your bonus money. That's your fun money. That's your play money. That's, like what if you had opened 5 businesses and you were only running one? You would still want to get a return from all those others. And that would be, maybe it's your retirement savings. Maybe that's the money you drop into your IRA or 401k or whatever. It's also vacation money. It's like I said, it's over and above those things that you're paying for every day from the owner's comp salary money.
Got it. It's the fun. I like fun money.
Fun money, right?
So you start with, when you said income account, I think of that as like the parking place for everything. All the money comes into one front door, right? Every dollar you make, every penny somebody sends you comes into one front door. And then from there, you send them into different envelopes, different rooms, different accounts. And basically there are 4, really. So so your profit first, take a little off the top, that is the dividend, the return on the investment of the work. That's a great way to think about that. Second money is your take-home money, your salary, how you're going to pay yourself, what you have to live off of. Third one is taxes, so that you don't land in the place that you landed.
Exactly.
Right? And golly, who doesn't know what that feels like to have, and what entrepreneurs deal with that the general employed public doesn't know, is that we have to pay quarterly taxes, right? So we have to pay taxes every 3 months, not just in April. And if you don't stay on top of that, you're not ready for that, you will regret that at the end of the year, speaking from experience. So there's that. And then the last one was your operations, which I'm guessing that's the money you need to run the business, right? That's paying your staff, paying for the software, et cetera. Okay, got it. Yep. Okay.
Basically everything else, right?
Yeah. So what do you do with that? You set those accounts up, and then what do you do?
Yeah, you do. You set those accounts up. I tell people the most you should be dealing with money is weekly. Most of our clients are doing it every other week or maybe even once a month. They let that money sit in that parking lot. I like that way that you said. I like parking lot.
Yeah.
It sits in the parking lot, and then once a month, once every 2 weeks, once a week even, you take it from that parking lot and you put it in those other accounts. And then once it's in those other accounts, you can spend it for that purpose of those accounts, right? Mm-hmm. So you can pay yourself from your owner's comp account, your owner's pay, owner's salary account. Mm-hmm. The tax and profit accounts are going to accumulate money because, like you said, Wendy, we pay taxes quarterly or annually. So you're not going to pay anything from the tax account until it's tax time. So it's just going to accumulate money. And that's why it's so important to have it, because we don't accumulate money anywhere else easily. When we see money, we spend money. That's just a natural human habit, which is one of the principles of profit first. Yeah. So that's why we have that account. Profit is the same way. You let profit just sit there until every quarter you take what's called a profit distribution. Again,
love it.
Just like if you were invested in the stock market, right? And one of those big companies paid you a quarterly dividend. Well, you can do that from your own business. You pay yourself a quarterly dividend. Yeah. And you take that money and you go have fun with it. And
or if you work for a hospital or an agency and you get a Christmas bonus every year. It's the same idea. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We just do it we try to do it every 3 months, every quarter. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for that, right? We don't want it to be annually where you kind of forget about it. We want it to be a regular thing so that you look forward to it. It's kind of motivation, right? To keep going. Yeah. But we also don't want it to be so frequent that it becomes just another pot of money sitting in your personal bank account, like your salary. So
Right.
that quarterly seems to be a really good rhythm for those purposes. So yeah, once you do that, and then you have your operating expense money, once it's in that account, you pay your bills from it. That's where you're going to pay all of those other expenses that you mentioned earlier and
Yeah. Yeah.
anything else that it takes you to run your business.
One of the mistakes that I have made and often have to watch is that one of the biggest things that actually I kind of ran into when I first started to practice, and it still trips me up from time to time, is that when you run a business, you can count like everything as a business expense, right? And so I tell people, if you go to Walmart for groceries, but you buy a pack of pens while you're there, that mileage can count into, I bought some office supplies while I was there.
Yep.
What I have found that's dangerous for people like me, because I love business and I love spending money on business and I love playing with business, is that I can justify anything. I can justify anything. Well, it's a tax write-off. It's fine.
Yep.
But if you were careful about this system, it would sort of give you some structure around that money, so you were being more intentional and conscious about it. I don't do this. I will tell you. I've done little bits of it. I've dove into it and out of it over time. The only thing I have taken money, I have taken that profit first piece off. I have done that. And I use that for travel money. That's what I do. I take a certain percentage off and I put it in what I call my adventure fund. And it is amazing how fast that grows with just a small regular donation. It's amazing how that grows. But I haven't done the rest of it, not in any really good, solid, consistent way.
Interesting.
Which makes me think about the mindset side of this, which you told me sort of when you told me when we talked before that you started teaching people this, and it's like such a simple formula. Just do this. It's a piece of cake. And yet it's not. And I think I have one logistical question, and then I'm going to dive into that. If you are just getting started and you're kind of paycheck to paycheck, and you already feel like it takes everything, because I've seen this with my people. If it already takes everything you have to pay your bills, how do you start implementing this? Because if you take, you don't have that much and you split it up 5 different ways, it feels like you don't have anything. How do you ease into it? Do you just sort of like make a hard start? Tell me about that part.
Yeah, I'm all about baby steps. All about baby steps.
Okay.
So very much ease into it. It does not have to, we don't have to start with all 5 accounts. I actually recommend people who, if 5 accounts is overwhelming or too much, or you're already feeling like it takes every penny, start with your profit account, right? I mean, it's profit first. I'm always going to recommend profit first.
Yeah.
But start with your profit account. And we really do say 1% in your profit account is all it takes. Just start putting 1%. And if you can't, if you can't even have 3 accounts, like you may have to do this every day. Every time you get a deposit, you put the money in whatever account you're operating. It's all one account, right? And you say, I got $100. I'm going to take $1 because that's 1%.
Wow.
And I'm going to put it in my profit account.
Okay.
I got $1,000. I'm going to put $10 in my profit account. And you're right. It does. It's amazing how quickly it accumulates in there. And people see that and they're like, oh, if I can do 1%, then maybe I could do 2%. Or if I could do 1 account, then maybe I can do 2 accounts. But you get comfortable with 1 account and 1%, and then you can build from there. And you will have less in your operating expense account, right? You're going to have $1 less or $10 less. But for the most part, the fact of the matter is you ran your business last month off of less money anyways. Right? And that's the whole thing. Like Wendy, you said earlier, the $4 million business that doesn't have any money left. They started somewhere and they were running their business off of so much less. But the more money you have, the more money you spend.
That is so true.
And so when you get that $1,000 check, just take $10 right off the top and you will learn to live and run your business off of $990.
There was a time when I had a really full practice. I don't do that anymore, but there was a time when I was seeing like 25, 26 people a week. And a lot of people back then would pay me with a check or cash. This is when I had an insurance-based business, so people were paying copay. I don't do any of this anymore. But back then, so at the end of the week, I would have a stack of checks and cash, and I would take it to the bank, and I would give it all over, and I would say, before you deposit it, put I think I was putting like 25% in this account for taxes. I had the profit first thing. I was doing 5% off the top to go into here, and what was left would go in my business checking account. And it was such a habit that I didn't even think twice about it, because whatever was left was whatever was left. That's what I worked off. And I had a guy that used to pay me. He used to pay me like, I think his copay was like $22.50, and he would bring me a $20 bill and a $2 bill wrapped around 2 quarters. Tightly, and I would take that to the bank, and he got so tickled by that. He said, "You're taking that to the bank?" I'm like, "Yes, that's income. Yes, I'm taking that to the bank, because that's what you do, and that's the right thing to do." I feel strong about that, but it was really funny. But that habit was really solid. I think getting paid digitally, it's easier to get sloppy about that, because I would have a stack and I would just tell the clerk, "Do this, do this, do this." So yeah, you're right. And I never, ever, 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 ever worried about taxes when I was doing that. Yeah. So tell me what you've seen. What have you run into with, once you started rolling this out, you were working with fitness professionals in the beginning, right?
Yeah, mostly. About 6 years ago, we started just working with fitness people. And then 2020, we kind of expanded that to include more wellness people. So then we have, chiropractors and online. We do have several online therapists, online coaches, health coaches, all kinds of coaches. And so it's really interesting, Wendy, what you just said about we have lost touch with our money because of the digital age. We literally have lost the feeling of what money feels like in our hands. And I think it's really interesting what that has done in a lot of different ways. But we're just really out of touch. It's easy to just kind of let it go on automatic. But we don't realize what automatic is doing to us and our businesses. And it just allows us to kind of fall back into habits that probably aren't serving us, right? And if
so true.
Really more in touch with what was going on, like literally in our bodies and in our heads when we're dealing with money, we could probably create a more healthy relationship with our money, where we weren't falling back into those old habits we probably aren't even aware of, habits we gained from, parents and people in our younger years. But that's been one of the biggest shifts, I think, is that digital age, which I really don't know money. I mean, I sort of know money before the digital age, but it's been a long, it's more of my life has been digital than not digital.
That's funny. I'm dating myself.
I did have the envelopes in my purse for a couple of years when we had little kids. But, it's just so many of those things. Like you said, people will come to us. It's so interesting, Wendy, that you really had profit first when we were cash, and then we went digital, and now you're like, I just need the profit account. So that's interesting, and we see that with other people. I see people who amass large amounts of debt, really like unbeknownst to them. They're just like, I don't know how I got in this much debt.
Wow. From being unconscious about it.
It's completely unconscious.
Yeah.
We also see the opposite, though. It's very interesting. We see people who will accumulate. I have somebody who has accumulated 6 figures in their owner's pay account and will not increase their paycheck.
Wow.
Their business.
So have plenty of money, but are approaching it from a lack mindset and never feel like they have enough. And so they've got kind of a chokehold on it. That's very interesting.
Exactly. So it runs the gamut, and that's what really started to get me interested, because I was like, it's not there. I can't say it's always going to manifest itself in one reaction, one habit, you know, but it's all that scarcity mindset of I have to keep it while I have it. That way I don't lose it. Or, I don't have enough and I'll never have enough. And so I'm just going to go spend. There's all kinds of things that happen when we have that kind of mindset.
So once you started teaching people how to do profit first, were you surprised at what you ran into? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 100%, like I said, just all these people who, I mean, like those are 3 stories of people that I was like, how do you do that? I mean,
Yeah.
like I won't tell you that I had the greatest relationship with money. I didn't. I needed to do my own work.
Don't we
That's
all?
part of why
Yeah.
we were spending money that we should have been saving for taxes, right?
There
I
is a
get
reason why I talk
that.
about this so much. It is an ongoing issue that I am always working on. Always.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
because I'm out here talking about it doesn't mean that I have healed everything, right? There's still work going on. I totally get that. But I just did not understand. Like, I understood my own kind of stuff. At some point,
Yeah.
I was aware of my own stuff. I did not realize how differently different people manifest that, and what
Yes.
that looks like. So, yeah, seeing these people. I mean, I could always kind of tell you what our bank account situation was like. I mean, that's just, I'm a bookkeeper, like I
Right.
could always tell you that. So when people would come to me and I'd be on a sales call with them and I'd be like, so how much money did your business make last year, last month, whatever? I
They
don't know.
can't tell you.
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Yeah. They can't tell you. Yeah.
That was really, so yes, all of it was just very shocking to me how people just unaware, really, people were about money.
So you have created something called the Embodied CFO, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that concept, where that came from with you, and what that means, because I'm quite intrigued by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really came from seeing all of these situations. And I work with small business owners. Our largest client is doing under $2 million in business. So we do not have any of those $4 million clients. I would say our typical client is doing $500,000, and we have people doing 200,000, right? So they're small businesses. They can't afford a CFO in their business. Like, I would never recommend any of them to hire a CFO and pay them six figures to be in their business full time. That's just not a good use of their money.
I've got people who are making 60,000, 100,000, who maybe take home half that.
Exactly.
So
Right.
yeah.
So
yeah.
to pay anybody a CFO like level
Yeah.
salary, just
Yeah.
but you need somebody with those CFO level skills managing the money in your business. And that can be you as the owner. It
Yep.
can be a role that you fill in your business. Like, it not can be. I don't like the word
Has to be.
should, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, somebody has
Yeah.
to be doing. And here's the fact of it, Wendy. Somebody is. You're just not aware of it and probably not doing it very well.
Oh,
Right?
that's a good
Like,
point.
You
Yep.
don't have those CFO skills, but you are managing the money in your business as if you were the CFO. And so I just really saw that being true for all of our clients. And I was like, how can I help you to
Yeah.
have the skills of a CFO and really start to embody being a CFO of your business? And that also includes those mindset pieces, right? And not just the money skills, but what's your relationship with money like?
Yeah. Yeah.
That can you interact with money on a daily basis in a healthy way so that you can learn what it can do for you and what you can do for it and
Yeah.
all of those fun things. So that's a lot of where it came from and what it is.
So learning how to step fully into your role as a CFO, I would even say as a business owner, like part of your obligation, part of your duty, part of what it means to be a leader in your business, whether it's a small private practice or whether you're running a multi-million-dollar group practice. I've talked to some people like that. Regardless of where you are on that spectrum, I'm always conscious when people say, I work with people who are making, 200K. I'm thinking, I know a lot of people who would that's a small business, So I'm always aware of that.
Yep.
But it is. I totally get it. But people who are healers at their core are so heart-centered and so uncomfortable with this. And not only they don't want to look at it, they don't understand it, but they also really are hard on themselves and don't give themselves credit for being able to learn what they need to learn. It sounds like you teach them not just the strategy, not just the nuts and bolts, because it does help to learn that, guys.
It does.
When you can read a balance sheet and know what it means, that's very kind of helpful. Even if the news is bad, you will feel better just from being able to understand what you're looking at. But what I hear you saying is that you work with all of it. emotional discomfort, which is interesting coming from a bookkeeper. How the heck do you do that, Shannon? That's not your thing. How do you do that, hon?
I mean, it's taken me 16 years to get here.
Yeah.
It took me 14 years to get
Yeah,
here.
for
But,
real.
you know,
Yeah.
when you look at people who, it's so interesting because we have been working for the last 7 or 8 years with those people, those healers, you know, and I see you guys, you're all doing such amazing work. I love the work you're doing. That's what the world needs, right? The
Amen.
world needs your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
But the only way the world will have your work is if you are able to sustainably do it for as long as you want to do it. If you aren't paying yourself, you're not going to stay around doing it because at some point you're going to have to make a
Yeah.
living.
Yeah. So
You
what do
know?
you,
And so,
what do you, so I, my, the center of ideal practice is profit centered people forward.
yes.
This is really interesting. I love this, Shannon, so much. I love your energy. Your energy is just delightful.
Thank you.
Like for real. I'm not just saying that. In my world, what we are taught is that money is bad. Don't think about the money. Don't care about the money. And don't do this kind of work because you expect to get rich, because it's not about that. It's just about helping people. And so what I want to do personally in this podcast and in all the different ways I show up in the world, I want to turn that on its head. And I want to say sort of my version of profit first. So when I say profit centered, I mean, yeah, you actually do need to start there. And people forward, meaning when that's healthy, if you do pay attention to the bottom line, that doesn't make you a bad person. That makes you a healthy business. And you will be able to pay attention. You will be able to so much better at serving your clients and still be able to take your kids on vacation, right? Which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's sort of like the whole revenue minus expenses equal profit, flipping it. I sort of had that sort of same idea about just the way we approach our work. Pay attention to your money first, and then your clients will be better off, which is kind of radical for a social worker to say, right? It really is. It's completely radical. How? Can you just give me sort of a sense of like, how do you teach people to make peace with that, or to get comfortable with money, or to learn how to look at it and not have a freak out? What do you do? How do you teach them?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
I am a huge fan of somatics, which I'm imagining there's a lot of people in your community that are at least aware of somatics. And so when people come to me and they start saying money's bad, I just ask them to pause. Where do you notice? What are you noticing in your body when you say money is bad? Your sympathetic nervous system is doing something when you say that. And if you can become aware of that and just start to shift, like our body drives our mind, really. And we want to talk about mindset. And I'm over it. I really don't like to use the word mindset. I use it because it's what people like. That's what people know in the world. It's the buzzword, right? But our bodies really are driving what's going on in our head. And we're just so out of tune with our body as well as our money, right? And so if you can just tune into that. And what is that feeling? And let's start to shift that feeling. Let's start to get out of that sympathetic nervous system when we're thinking about money, especially. That's the work I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and so get out of that and let your body feel safe dealing with money so that it's not in that money is bad thinking, but money can serve us, and we can do good things with money and all the things, but really bringing that safety into your body. And there's hundreds of ways that we can start to do that.
Money doesn't feel safe for a lot of people.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Okay.
doesn't.
Are you the person who said something to me once about we want to find ways to think of, like, what if we allowed money to nourish us? Are you the one? Someone has said that to me in the last few months, and I don't remember who it was, but that's what's popping into my head. What if we allowed money to nourish? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'm a big proponent. I don't like budgets either. So this gets back into the more practical things, but I like to call it an abundance growth plan instead.
Oh.
So what are the values? And we talk a lot about values. What are the values that you have, and how are when I look at somebody's balance sheet and profit and loss statement, especially when we talk about personal money, I can really start to like pick up on some values, right?
Yeah.
And so when I say, what are your values? One of the first things we do with clients in that embodied CFO is to define their values. How is money supporting your values? Right? And so, I mean, that, and a lot of times that is getting the people forward side of what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
how does money support your business? How does money support your mission of serving your clients? Like you have to have money in order to do that. And so, yeah, I love that. How do you allow money to nourish us? And
It's
really
a rich
support
word,
your values.
isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I don't remember who said that to me. I was thinking it might be you, but because when you talk about embodiment, I'm like, food nourishes our body. What if we allowed money to nourish us as well, which is also kind of radical. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I want to explore this somatics idea a little bit more.
For sure.
So you ask somebody, where are you feeling that? And they're like, my chest tightens up, or I get a little bit of a headache, or my heart beats faster, or I get a stomach ache.
Yep.
Which I think probably does happen, or
Yeah,
I
it
feel,
does for me sometimes.
Yeah. What do you do? What do you suggest at that point? How do you coach them through that?
Yeah.
How
so
do you shift
I
that?
first
Yeah.
ask them to like, if that feeling had a voice, what is it saying to you? And just really get in tune and listen. And sometimes that's where the money is bad comes up, or, sometimes that's where a parent's voice or a caregiver's voice from the past will show up, and then I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
what do you, if the voice isn't yours, can
Yeah.
you give that voice back to whoever it came from? Just let that be their voice. You don't have to carry that voice in the pit in your stomach anymore, or your beating heart, or whatever it is. And most of the time it's somebody else's, right? So we just get to like wrap it up in a box and hand it back to them and not carry it anymore. And
Just
then I do
recognizing
ask,
that it's not your own is a start, I would think.
half the time recognizing that the voice is there is the
Yeah.
biggest shift.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then we get to look at, if it is a voice of yours, which, like I said, rarely it is. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to wrap it up and send it off into the ether world as well? But I often do have people find some other somatic practice that they can replace that with.
Okay.
When they notice that feeling. I love to have people like, when you're pulling your credit card out at the grocery store, can you rub your fingertips together? It's so simple, but it signifies safety, and it just calms your nervous system. And so just finding little practical ways that you can use some of those somatic practices in everyday life, and it doesn't have to be big things.
Yeah, but so give us a few more examples of that. So rubbing your fingertips together.
Yeah, like really feeling the fingerprints, right? Somatics is about just really getting present, right? And feeling this moment. So anything you can do. Some people, like sometimes I need a big walk. That's not always available to me, right? I need to get out in nature and like see. So I really I tell people to think about your five senses. What can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? What can you hear? What can you feel? Feeling your fingertips is just something that's really super easy, like anywhere you are. Right?
Love it. Yes,
You
that's
can
a
stand in line at
standard.
the grocery store and do that.
Yes, I mean it is a subtle thing, but it is a subtle thing that works. So this is part of being in your body. So what you are doing is you are giving them a grounding exercise that says come back, because we tend to get out of our body or up into our heads, right? And I want to emphasize the idea of being conscious versus unconscious. If we are spending or making money decisions or taking action with money that is unconscious, it means we're not being thoughtful and deliberate and intentional about it, right? And if you have a lot of shame, I'm a terrible money manager, I don't understand numbers, I don't even know what this stuff means, then you just sort of like, I'm just not going to think about it, right? I'm going to turn my head and put it over there behind me. And so, or if you have old money stories that are tripping you up, like my parents never had enough, or my folks fought about money all the time, or we had plenty, but we didn't spend a dime because there was always the threat of the wolf at the door, whatever the story is that you grew up with. If you're afraid of it, uncomfortable with it, have a lot of shame about it, feel guilty because you've made bad choices, whatever. And you are approaching money by turning yourself off, like turning your awareness off. I'm just not even going to think about it. I'm just going to do it. That's how you continue to sort of stay stuck, right? We act
100%.
out. Just yesterday, I had a counseling client share with me who's gotten herself into some credit card debt, which is so common, that when she's having an emotional struggle with something, she's mad at somebody important in her life, or she's feeling unloved or uncared for, she was like, kind of gets honestly, parents, close your kids' ears, gets a case of the fuckets, right? And fine, whatever, and we'll spend money sort of rebelliously, which to me is all sort of an unconscious acting out. What you're doing is you're saying, be present in the moment as you make decisions about money. Feel your body, and tuning into your senses is a great way of like coming back home, coming back to center. I love that, Shannon. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways to do it, but yeah, I mean, really, we do spend the first week in the Embodied CFO program just having people write down every money transaction they make. That's it. Just gaining the awareness, like you said, Wendy, to bring that to like help them recognize all the times they really are interacting with money, that it's just automatic.
It's like a money diary, kind of like a money log or a money journal.
Yep.
That's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah. And then we can build off of that, right? Then we can add on, okay, now this week, pay attention to what the feeling is in your body when you're doing those things. But I have people that will come back to me, like I first just said, well, like pay attention to the feeling in your body. And they come back to me and they're like, I only really had like these 5 things. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, you
I
do.
know you deal with money more than 5 times in a week.
Oh, well, they'll say they only had 5 transactions, or they only did things 5 times. Right.
They're just so on automatic pilot. And that's where that's one of those things about the digital age. Like it is easy to be on automatic pilot, but I'm like, are you checking your bank account every day? Are you, most of us are doing some form of that. So it was just really eye-opening to me, like you were talking about how out of touch people really were with how often they were even thinking about money. So I realized first we had to understand that we're dealing with money more than we think we are.
So you have to make the unconscious conscious first.
Exactly. Yep.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. And you're right. That is such a great example. I've seen young people get into trouble because everything is automatic. So they get an automatic, their paycheck is deposited automatically in their checking account. And then they use a debit card or credit card or whatever to buy their jeans. And they never look at a statement anymore because they either don't get them or they get them online. And money is just sort of this magic thing in the ether that they have no awareness of. And before you know it, they try to buy something and the card crashes because there's nothing left in the account. Yeah. I've seen that.
Well, and I don't know. I've just recently started. I don't watch TV very much at all, but I've recently started seeing this one commercial. Maybe it's on Instagram, even Rocket Money, where they walk up to you and they're like, "Can we analyze your bank account and see how many subscriptions you have that you don't?" And they're like, "How many do you think?" And the person says 3, and they do the analysis, and it's like 30.
100%.
So yes,
100%.
I mean, we see this with clients all the time. You subscribe to an app and you think you're going to use it, and 10 months later, you're like, I still haven't had time to learn that thing, and you've meanwhile wasted however many. That's
so true.
That's the probably first piece coming back in, but
it's so good. This is so good.
Yeah.
Can you so like the big theme that I'm getting out of this, which I'm loving, is in the digital world, it is really easy to be completely disconnected from your money anyway, even if you have a perfectly healthy relationship with it. It's just so easy to sort of ignore it. So first you have to be aware of it. But also if you have an emotional issue around money, and who doesn't, then that's going to add layers to that. And so you really do owe it to yourself as a human being, much less as a business owner, to tune in and learn this stuff and do the things that you're teaching us to make it real. I also think that this is part of being a CEO. And when you make a decision to open a business, to run a practice, to serve your clients outside of the hospital, the agency, the yoga studio, to do your own thing, to be the CEO of your own show, then you owe it to yourself to figure this stuff out. You owe it to your clients to figure this stuff out. But I'm telling you, if you don't, it's going to come back to bite you, because your stuff, and people have heard me say this ad nauseum, but your stuff is going to show up in your business. Whatever your stuff is, business to me is like psychotherapy on steroids because, I mean, you will be reflected back to yourself like, oh, I have a problem here. Maybe I should figure something out about this. Can you give us, could you give us maybe like, say, 3 or 4 sort of starting steps to do? And we've talked about the profit first stuff, I think, in a really good, tangible way that I think, and y'all, if you want to learn more about this, go follow Shannon, look at her website and follow what she teaches, and also go get the book and just read the book. But this other stuff matters even more because if you don't do this, you're not going to do that. Can you just give people a few steps? Like if you want to get started down this road, here are some things to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I really do think like that money journal, money diary, whatever you want to call it, the money log, just start to gain awareness into your money, into your relationship with money. You know what like how often you are relating to money. Yeah. That's where I would start because there's so much that even for people with healthy relationships, you know, there are so many things that are automatic, to just really tune into that. And then when you have those big things, you know, like as CEOs and you're running payroll or you're paying bills, like the big things that you know kind of trigger you, right? Or typically trigger other people even if you want to think about like, how does this usually work for other people? Start to get curious about what that does feel like for you.
Okay.
It's easy when we're thinking about, oh yeah, I do know a lot of people that struggle to run payroll. Payroll seems easy for me. Just tune in. Is it really? How easy is it for you? Like start to rate it, and then you can see improvement in that as you gain more awareness into your relationship with money.
So what tags that for me is that if you don't have payroll because you don't have employees, you may have a virtual assistant, you may have a bookkeeper, you have somebody on your team, or maybe, and how do you feel when you pay that person? Or maybe you need to have somebody on your team, which is another thing I'd preach. And don't think you can. What are the feelings that come up about that when you imagine paying for that or imagine that level of, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think those are really the two things. Because once we have that awareness, then we can start to shift it. But until we have that awareness, it's really hard to know what are we shifting until we have that awareness.
Yeah. So when I'm talking to people about hiring somebody, one of the things I will do is have them create, I call it a service audit, but basically, literally keep legal pad on your desk. And for 2 weeks, write down everything you do daily today in your business. Just make just a real quick bullet list of made this phone call, wrote that email, researched this issue, whatever. I'm thinking of a money log or a money journal like that way, like keep a notepad on your desk. Right. And I wanted to say, is that what you mean? Like literally just write it down every time you do something with money. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. The only thing I might add to that, just because I mean, if you are somebody who goes to the store and does shopping, some of us do, some of us don't, right?
Yeah.
Maybe having that note as like the home screen on your phone. So when you are out and about, you can add things there too. Like we don't carry that pad of paper with us anymore, right? When we're out and about. So you can have two and combine them.
It could be a Google Doc. It could be a notes app on your phone. It could be whatever, Trello, Evernote, whatever. There you go. Yeah.
Whatever it is. But yeah, that's exactly the same thing. Like literally every time you pull out the credit card, look for the credit card number, pull up your Google Wallet, whatever you're doing. Even like this is where it gets hard because it's so automated, right? But when we're on Amazon, our credit card's already in there. So we just click the button that says buy now. We don't even have to really think about what we're doing, but that's a money transaction. And so it does take a pretty high level of awareness to notice when you're doing those things. But
you're not talking about going in and looking at their checking account and just checking their transactions in their bank account. No. That's not what you mean, right?
No, I'm not. I'm like, what is the sensation in your body when you're clicking buy now on Amazon? Yeah. But it's so automatic and it's so easy that those are the quote unquote money transactions that people don't even consider money transactions. And so the first week you're going to say, oh, I probably only had so many, and I would say keep going the
Yeah.
more you start to become aware of it, the more you start to notice how much you're actually interacting with money. So then the second week, you typically have more. And, by 3 or 4 weeks, you're like, oh, I am dealing with money quite a bit. And didn't
This is
realize it.
great. What's flashing through my head is like I use Venmo to pay for my fiddle lessons, and I use Venmo to pay for a driver to help take my mom to a doctor's appointment. I use PayPal to do certain things. I use Stripe to do certain things. I use Square to do certain things.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's spread out all over the place. Not to mention the things that are automatic, like the subscriptions, whatever. That's really good. Yeah. So just becoming more mindful by paying extra attention for a while. That's really, I love that. And then noticing the feeling you have as you do it. Does that feel good? What was going on right before you did that? Were you feeling stressed? What happens after you do that? Do you feel regret or freedom or joy or worry? Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it feel? I would add to that, how does it feel when you get paid by your clients?
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, both spending and receiving transactions are equally important. So yes,
Yep.
when you get paid by your clients.
Yep.
And then I said too earlier, I think the third tip that I would have on that is what appreciation then can you feel for money? Gratitude, whatever you want to talk about it. But, when your
Yeah.
client hands you money, can you view that as them expressing appreciation for the
Yes.
work you just did with them
Yes.
instead of whatever else might be going on in your head about your client paying you?
Love it.
When you pay for something, when you pay your credit card bill that has all those automatic transactions, can you go back and look at those automatic transactions and really appreciate the fact that it was automatic and that, you have the ability to pay for all of these subscriptions. Here's another one that's really interesting. Just throw this in here. When you pay your debt payment, so if your credit card's just, you're paying it every single month,
Yeah.
fine, great.
Yeah.
But if you also have like a loan or some old credit card debt that you're paying, can you appreciate the fact that you were able to go into debt and what that ability was able to do? Like, did you use that to start your business?
Like at the EIDL loans that came out during the pandemic. There you go.
Right. Can you be grateful that you had the ability to do that? Because there are people who don't have credit and can't take out credit loans and credit cards and just really expressing appreciation for the ability or the privilege that you were given or the whatever that credit allowed
The
you
opportunity
to do.
you had. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I would add to that when you pay your taxes. I try to think of like when I pay taxes, this is a good thing because for one, I am helping my fellow citizens have roads to drive on and my kids to go to school. But it means that I have some level of success. If I'm paying taxes, it means I'm making some money and that's a good thing. Yeah. Yeah. I know it's loaded, but that's really good. So keep a money journal, pay attention to the feelings you have around each transaction coming and going, and then practice appreciation in the moment. I really think that's beautiful. That's great, Shannon. That's really great. How can people find you? How can people learn more about you? If they want to know more about the Embodied CFO, about your work, what do they do?
Yep. So we're on all the socials, Fit for Profit. It's the number 4. So FIT 4 and the number and then profit.
Glad you said that. Okay.
Yeah.
Fit for profit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Our website is not Fit the number 4. It's Fit FOR profit.com. You can find us there. And I also have, we talk about 5 pillars. So we've talked about 3 of our 5 pillars, the bookkeeping, the profit first, and embodied CFO. We also talk about systems, and then we also talk about values. So I have a checklist of those that you guys can go and get that.
Okay.
I put together a special link for you guys. So it's fitforprofit.com/ideal. Pretty easy.
Oh, I love it.
Hopefully.
Love
You
it.
can grab that checklist there. Just to help you look through, what are you doing well and what are some other areas that you might want to start to focus on? Where do you want to start to focus on in your business?
Great. Fit for Profit, FIT, the number 4, profit.com/ideal. No, your website had
spelled
FOR on
out.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Y'all don't listen to me. We'll put that in the show notes down below. That's very
Yes,
funny.
all the socials are the number, and then our website is not. So
/ideal. That's the part. That would be great. That would give people sort of an overview of a way to get started. That's really great. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank
I hope they'll take you up on that because I think it'll be good for them. I love to wrap up an interview by asking if there's anything I have forgotten to ask you, anything we have not talked about that we need to, or is there anything that you just feel called to share that would make this conversation complete?
Yeah, I mean, Wendy, I think you've done a really great job. We've covered almost like everything. I think I would just reiterate, and I know this is kind of, I absolutely love what you say about profit-centered people forward. And I say it a little bit differently, but you all are doing such amazing work. And I know I already said this, but I want you all to be so successful, right? Because I see the world being better when you're successful.
Yeah.
And that means like understanding money and being able to deal with money on a regular basis in a really healthy way. So I just reiterate that. Yeah.
Love it. Make friends with money. Make friends with money. I love that. In a healthy way. A colleague of mine used to go around saying, insurance companies are my friend. I'm like, that's a bit of a stretch, honey, but okay. Oh, that's really great.
That's what you have to tell yourself, right?
Well, something you're saying what that makes me think of, like you started with fitness professionals, right? And so we talk about body health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. This is part of being a healthy human being, but also being a healthy business owner. So yeah, do this for yourself. So your clients, because your clients will be the ultimate winners here. Yeah. Really this is great. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. I've had some really good takeaways for myself that are sort of inspiring and kind of making me like, oh yeah, I really need to get back into this. This is really good stuff. So thank you, Shannon. Y'all pay attention to her. Follow her. When I told you her energy is good, I mean it. You will like her. And isn't it a treat to find money people that we like? Yeah, it is. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Shannon, and for all the wisdom that you have shared. And thank you, guys out there in the world. Thank you for those of you who are listening. I hope you will do a lot. Like, take this in. Take this in. Breathe it in. Own it. Feel it. Work with it. And your practice will be more ideal by the day. So there you go. Have a great week, everybody. And I will see you next week right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.